Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a tiny, but, well, pretty formidable little bug that goes after one of our most precious senses, our sight. You know, this is a real story of a medical mystery, a case of mistaken identity, and a truly wild microscopic invasion plan.
So, picture this. It's a scenario that really stumps doctors all of the time. A patient walks in with this nagging eye infection that just will not go away. You throw the usual stuff at it, right? Antibacterials, antivirals, and nothing. They don't even make a dent. So what on earth is going on? Well, it turns out the culprit is something that's been hiding in plain sight all along.
And that culprit is an organism called Nosema ocularum. This thing is a super specialized parasite. It's really carved out its own unique and frankly, dangerous little niche. And that niche is causing some serious eye disease in people.
Okay, let's get into it. A disease of the eye. To really wrap our heads around what we're dealing with, we've got to start with the damage it causes. And I'm telling you, this isn't just any old infection. It's a full-on assault on the cornea. You know, the very window to our world.
So, what is this thing exactly? Well, technically, it's an obligate intracellular endoparasite. Yeah, I know, that is a mouthful, but all it really means is that this thing is a complete freeloader. It absolutely cannot survive on its own. It has to invade and live inside our cells, hijacking all their machinery just to make copies of itself.
All right, this is where the story gets really interesting. We're talking about a fungus in disguise. Believe it or not, this involves a huge case of mistaken identity, one that took scientists like 100 years to figure out.
So check this out. This is a complete 180 in science. For decades, scientists thought that Microsporidia, the group Nosema ocularum belongs to, were these really primitive protozoa. And why? Well, because they looked under the microscope and couldn't find any mitochondria, you know, the little powerhouses that run our cells. But then, genetics changed everything. Turns out, they do have these tiny leftover bits of mitochondria called mitosomes. And that one discovery completely flipped the script, revealing their true identity. They're actually super specialized fungi that just got rid of everything they didn't need for their parasitic lifestyle.
You know, even the name tells you a lot. Nosema comes from the Greek word nosema, which literally means disease. And it got that name because one of its relatives, Nosema bombaxis, almost wiped out the entire European silk industry. So yeah, disease is a pretty fitting name. And the second part, ocularum, that's just Latin for of the eye. So put it together and what do you get? Disease of the eye. It's literally written right there in its name.
This taxonomy table really helps put it all in perspective. So, kingdom fungi. Remember, it's not a protozoan anymore. Phylum Microsporidia, which is basically the group of these obligate intracellular parasites. Then you get down to the species Nosema ocularum, and that's where we see its very specific job, causing this severe inflammation in the human eye called stromal keratitis.
Okay, so we know what this thing is. But now the question is, where in the world is it? Let's zoom out from the microscopic level and take a look at this pathogen's global footprint.
Turns out, Nosema ocularum is a true world traveler. You can find cases on pretty much every populated continent. But what's really interesting is that how people get infected seems to change depending on where you are. So, for example, in parts of Southeast Asia, you see it more in rural or agricultural areas, often after some kind of environmental exposure. But in developed nations, well, that's where the story tends to be a bit different.
And this really lays out that tale of two contexts. In Southeast Asia, it's often affecting healthy, immunocompetent people in rural settings, maybe after some eye trauma involving soil or water. But then you look at a place like the Netherlands, and it's classified as an imported disease. What does that mean? Well, it usually shows up in travelers coming back from other regions, or in people whose immune systems are compromised. It's a perfect example of how global travel and a person's health status can completely change the game.
Okay, now for what I think is the most fascinating part, the parasite's invasion plan. Seriously, how does a single-celled organism pull off such a complex and effective invasion? Let's break down its life cycle.
The whole thing is just a masterclass in parasitic efficiency, really. It's broken down into three main phases. First, you have the infective phase, where this tough little spore is just waiting around. Then comes the proliferative phase, where it multiplies like crazy inside a host cell. And finally, the maturative phase, where it builds a whole new army of spores to go out and spread the infection. The absolute key to its success is the spore. You can think of it like a microscopic survival pod. It's protected by this amazing three-layer wall. You've got the tough outer exospore, and then this thick inner layer, the endospore, which is made of chitin. Now that's the same super tough stuff you find in an insect's exoskeleton, and crucially, it's a key component of other fungi. This whole structure just makes the spore incredibly tough and resilient.
So how does this survival pod actually get inside one of our cells? Honestly, this part is straight out of science fiction. The spore has this tightly coiled up filament inside called a polar tube. And when it gets the signal that a host cell is nearby, that tube explosively fires out like a microscopic harpoon. It punctures the cell membrane and then injects all of the parasite's guts, its infectious material, directly inside. It's basically a biological injection system. Just incredible. Now, as you can imagine, this incredibly sophisticated invasion plan has some major real-world consequences. So let's talk about the diagnosis and treatment challenges, because this parasite poses a huge problem for both patients and the doctors trying to help them.
So what happens after the invasion? The patient develops this condition called stromal keratitis. And let's be crystal clear, this is not your average case of pink eye. We are talking about a deep, severe inflammation of the cornea's middle layer, the stroma. And what makes it so dangerous is that it's often slow and progressive, which means it can be misdiagnosed for a long time. And all that time, the infection is just digging in deeper, becoming a real threat to the person's vision.
So, with all that confusion, how can doctors know for sure that they're dealing with Nosema ocularum? Well, you have to get out the big guns, a powerful electron microscope. And when you do, there's this one tiny, crucial clue. Remember that polar tube we talked about, the little harpoon? Well, for this specific species, it has a very precise number of coils, 11 to 12. It's such a tiny detail, but it makes all the difference in nailing the diagnosis.
But getting the diagnosis right is really only half the battle. Actually, treating this thing is, well, it's notoriously difficult. For one, the parasite is hiding deep inside the cornea, a place where typical eye drops just can't penetrate very well. And even when you use powerful drugs, like topical fumagillin or oral albendazole, many Nosema species are just plain resistant. It's a huge challenge. And honestly, this is why prevention is so important. Especially in high-risk areas, something as simple as wearing protective eyewear when you're farming or gardening can make all the difference.
All of this brings us to the final part of our deep dive today, the future of the fight. I mean, given all these challenges we just talked about, where do we possibly go from here? What does the future look like in the fight against this tiny invader?
You know, when you really think about it, the story of Nosema ocularum is more than just about one infection. It's really a case study for a much bigger issue. Sure, it might be considered a rare pathogen, but its global reach and the serious damage it can do, that's a wake-up call. As our world gets smaller and more connected every day, it forces us to ask a really critical question. How do we get ready for these rare but high-impact diseases that can now travel across the globe just as easily as we can?
Just so you know, all the information we've covered in this explainer was compiled using a Gemini deep search. And for any of you who want to get really nerdy and dive deeper into the science, we've put together a detailed list of all our sources for you in the linked Notebook LM document. And that's a wrap for this explainer. If you found this breakdown interesting or useful, please do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're always doing more deep dives like this. We'd also genuinely love to hear what you think, so make sure to leave your feedback for us in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.